Dear distinguished delegates, welcome to the HIV and Adolescent Workshop 2020, and more specifically, welcome to the Business Not Usual Young People Inspiring Change session. This amazing session is going to be chaired by two vibrant young leaders. That is Jeremiah Lugumbe from Zambia and myself. My name is Erin Ogeta, a young woman leader, a social activist, a feminist from Kenya who is passionate about young women's well-being and inclusion in leadership spaces. I work closely on matters of sexual reproductive health and rights advocacy, advocating for cultural education in Kenya and child's rights, recognition and women's rights as human rights, as well as advocating towards gender equity. I believe in working with young people in advancing the recognition, protection, and fulfillment of women and girls' rights in HIV response. I am currently serving as the Associate Program Officer, Young Women Advocacy with the Athena Network, which is apparently operating in 10 countries of Eastern and Southern Africa. I am excited to introduce to you my co-chair, Jeremiah. Jeremiah Lugumbe Mulanda is from Lusaka, Zambia. He is currently in his 5th year of work with Plan International Zambia, where he is serving as a youth advisor on issues ranging from child marriages to teen pregnancies and child protection. He is also the vice chairperson for the Youth Advisory Panel, which is the Plan International's Youth Lead Advocacy Strategy. He has worked as a BBC Media Action Youth Ambassador on the Natapande project, which aimed at reducing sexual and gender-based violence in Lupuala, the northern provinces of Zambia. He is currently an interventional lead for adolescents in adaptive leadership projects, which is supported by the Ministry of Health and the Global Fund, and it aims at reducing new HIV infections among adolescents in Mansa. He also took part he is also part of the youth reference group for the HIV and Adolescent Workshop 2020. What exactly is Business Not Usual, Young People Leading and Inspiring Change about? We are delighted to share practical experiences of young people in leadership spaces who have continued to excel and shine in partnership with adults or working in adult-dominated spaces. Young people can be leaders of today and tomorrow, respectively. There is no power greater than the young people because the power of young people does not stop. We are basically the solution and not the problem. And there is absolutely nothing that can happen successfully without us, the young people, being part and parcel of that initiative or intervention. We as the young people have continued to show commitment in serving our generation with excellence, and this will in turn mean that our generation will also lead with excellence. Young people must have their voices heard at all times because we aren't here just as passive participants in the conversations about our present and future. We are excited to be taking up leadership spaces and being extremely active in shaping our present and the future we desire to have. Young people have continued to live with so much expertise and experiences. We have mastered well the science of exercising good leadership qualities that have made us continue shining even throughout the worst times. The young people leading social, health, and economic interventions have continued to remain clear with their deliverables, decisive to what initiatives to commit and direct their energy on without backing out until the mission is successfully accomplished. Courageous and bold in pushing and advocating for the recognition and inclusion of young people as professionals, passionate about needs and the concerns of their peers, and have continued to be open to take criticism as an opportunity to grow and exercise humility. As organizations and stakeholders continue investing in HIV response programs for the general public and key population, it is critical to ensure prevention programs focuses on young people, as well as engaging the young people in policy formulation and intervention implementation. More partnerships should be encouraged between young people and the adults, and we call upon all funders to also support the youth-led initiatives and interventions by initiating and adapting programs based on the feedback, experiences, and specific needs of the young people, as well as availing funding opportunities and technical support for youth-led organizations. Young people are apparently starting to face greater responsibility of driving the economic future of the world as it is officially entering an aging society. And the world's low unemployment arena reveals a competitive arena where organizations must continue striving to attract and hire the right talented young people while providing a rewarding environment for workforce. In a world of ample employment choices, organizations must remain relevant to its segments in synthesizing new ideas and concepts that increase desire to empower young leaders. The young people across the globe have continued to bring new energy and perspective in spaces and have continued to offer a different way of approaching their concerns and building their experiences while applying their skills in workspaces. This enthusiasm has continued to be great for team building, productivity, and workplace morale. Working with younger people has given adults an advantage, especially where the target population is the millennial, and has highlighted the promoted the implementation of peer-to-peer advocacy and service delivery, as they have continued to prove that they are better positioned to communicate the language their peers best understand. We are excited to bring all this practical youth leadership power as part of our discussion, because today we have a team of young people leading the health, social, and economic interventions in the global space, and they're going to take us through their leadership journey and share with us some of their powerful lessons and some of the lessons they've learned throughout their leadership. We hope that by the end of this session, the stakeholders present in this particular session today will realize the urgency and the importance to continue engaging young professionals and supporting youth-led interventions, as well as offering more adult youth collaboration opportunities. Welcome. Thank you, everyone. We received so many abstracts, and we wish to thank you all for sending in your abstracts. Just a few of them were able to be picked, and among those who were picked, we have 2 abstracts which are going to be presented orally today. We have one abstract which was amazing from Cindy Amaiza. She is from the Organization of Young People Living with HIV in Kenya, and she will be presenting on how adolescents and young people living with HIV successfully tackled the issue of expired antiretroviral treatment using social media with the hashtag Our Lives Matter. Welcome, Cindy.
Hi, my name is Cindy Amaiza, and I am from WellPlus Kenya, and today we're here to discuss about how adolescents and young people living with HIV successfully tackled the issue of expired antiretroviral treatment using social media under the hashtag Our Lives Matter. In Kenya, approximately about 185,000 adolescents and young people living with HIV require daily antiretroviral treatments to live longer and healthier lives. WellPlus Kenya is an umbrella network of youth-led organizations directly working to address the issues and challenges that are affecting adolescents and young people living with HIV. From 2018, we have been at the forefront of ensuring that the ARVs being dispensed in our health facilities are of standard and quality. You might be wondering what exactly prompted us to go ahead and use Twitter as our best channel. So during our routine support groups within our network, we noticed that some of the young people within us were being issued with expired medication. So we sent out a call to all the young people and adolescents living with HIV to check their expiry dates on their bottles of treatment, and would get back to us in case they had expired medication. A total of 57 responses were collected via WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, and text message. WellPlus Kenya found out that young people on second-line medication, that is lopinavir, were being issued expired medication. WellPlus Kenya mobilized youth-led organizations and other like-minded organizations and asked the National AIDS and STI Control Program, that is NASCOP, to address this matter. This was, however, not taken up. So on March 2018, we decided to go on Twitter and challenged NASCOP to address this matter through the hashtag Our Lives Matter. We managed to attract over 123,000 impressions. So this effort did not go unrecognized, and so NASCOP had to ask WellPlus Kenya to nominate 7 young people who would meet 7 of the top high-ranking officials to come and have a dialogue with them. So these 7 young people stood their ground and agreed that they need to be at the forefront of achieving viral suppression. And this will not be done if they were being issued with expired medication. So NASCOP then went ahead and issued a notice to all healthcare facilities to check their stock on lopinavir, and if expired, that they will change their patients to available options as recommended in the National Care Treatment Guidelines. The officials commended Y Plus Kenya for addressing the faults in these systems and committed to respond to young people's issues with urgency. So what exactly did we learn? That social media is an impactful tool when used properly, and we can see that it can effect change. It has enabled the quick and easy measuring and connection, contributing to tangible change. In future, it is very important that first communities develop accountability mechanisms to ensure governments provide quality commodities within their supply chain. And secondly, that treatment literacy is done to all end users for any available treatment regimen. This is to ensure that even though our young people might want to be adherent and very well taken care of, they might not be using the correct treatment for themselves. So we need to have these sort of mechanisms in place to ensure that young people get the right information the right way, and so they take their medication in the correct manner. Thank you and bye.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for that great and powerful representation. And now I would like to welcome our second abstract presenter, who is Brian Sabur from Indonesia. It's coming from an organization known as Aliansi Remaja Independent, and he will be presenting on youth in an intersectional advocacy efforts against the Indonesian Penal Code revision that violates sexual and reproductive health and rights.
Good day. My name is Brian Roosevelt Sabur. Today I will be presenting my lessons learned abstract titled Youth and Intersectional Advocacy Effort Against the Indonesian Penal Code Revision that Violates Sexual and Reproductive Rights. The following will be the outline. We will start with the introduction, then I will go into the methods, the result, and finally the conclusion. A little bit of background first. The Indonesian Penal Code is a legacy from the colonial era, and as such, it is heavily outdated. For example, rape is narrowly defined as the penetration of penis into the vagina, and only females are acknowledged as victims. Revision to this penal code has been underway for decades, and a national alliance made up of civil society organizations, including youth organizations, has been established, working for over a decade in giving input to government. However, Indonesian conservatism has increased significantly in the last few years, resulting in an influence over the discussions regarding the revision. The final version had planned to ban all abortion, restrict contraceptive information dissemination, and criminalize premarital sex, as well as other issues outside the scope of SRHR. This is despite the various input from the Alliance. In response, an intersectional advocacy is implemented, working with various issues that also coincide with this problem. For the methods, the formation of this coalition worked with other alliances, such as the anti-corruption activists who were pushing against a bill that would weaken anti-corruption efforts, working with gender activists that were pushing for an anti-sexual violence bill, and working with indigenous activists who were working against a mining deregulation bill that would then threaten the environment. These alliances are built everywhere, not just in Jakarta, which is often a critique that the national dialogue just happens in the national capital. Youth, in particular, took part in the public identify the specific problems in the planned revision to the penal code, making sure that the discussion around law and SRHR was lifted. This means that they were able to identify what the problems were. And more young people were now also aware of the political process involved in policy making. They're also more aware of their sexual and reproductive rights, mainly through engagement during the online campaign. In conclusion, this inclusive intersectional advocacy was able to delay the revision, and now the coalition will be able to rally more support to advance human rights in various issues, whether it be regarding gender-based violence, anti-corruption issues, social issues, SRHR, etc. The coalition is still engaging the public frequently, especially in online media. For example, after the protests, the coalition conducted a concert. The coalition still needs to actively lobby to the new government to ensure that their voices are heard and that the input is considered into the revision in the penal code. And now, youth are more aware and engaged, which means they are more aware of their rights and how to engage in the decision making, whether it be in the streets or even to the highest level of political advocacy to the government. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much to Cindy and Brian for those wonderful presentations. We really enjoyed. My first question goes to Cindy. How can we ensure a successful digital advocacy using social media?
For me specifically, we have to ensure that we have an advocacy plan. And if we are creating an advocacy plan in it, we have to map out our target audience. So be it stakeholders in whatever you want to, the key stakeholders in whatever you want to advocate for, you have to ensure that you have mapped them out in totality to ensure that you include them in your advocacy plan. You have to create advocacy messaging before you go on whichever platform you decide to use on social media. You have to have created the message plans. And then you have to have great mobilization of the people who you want to advocate with. So, and this is what makes or breaks the whole social media plan, because you have to ensure that these people you are mobilizing are in great numbers, and at the same time they have good information on whatever you're going to advocate for. Because if not, then that means that you will have an advocacy plan, you'll have the messaging, but whatever everyone else will be getting out there, if not well informed, then they will be asking for a lot of things which are not part of your advocacy plan. So this is very important for us when you're doing social media advocacy. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy. That's very powerful indeed.
So a question for you, Brian. What is the role of civil society in policy?
Yes, for the role of civil society in policy, I number one is being the guardian to ensure that the policy making one actually tries to answer actual issues in the community. Two is trying to actually answer and not going around the issue at hand. And during the process of trying to answer, actually actively and meaningfully engage those inside the community, especially those who will be most affected and those marginalized.
Thank you very much. Post your questions in the live chat box. A question from the chat box from Georgia Creswell goes to Brand. It says, what kind of safety and security measures do you put in place for youth advocates in case there is violence and protests and other advocacy activities do not go well?
Thank you for the question. For security and safety measures, we don't necessarily differentiate between youth and adults. However, we do have for vulnerable, including young people, but that also includes, for example, queer people and others like disabled. For the planning, I can't go into detail because it's a movement thing. However, what I can say is we ensure that their position, for example, I can say broadly is that their position is in a safe area in protest, for example. If and most protests try very much try to avoid violence happen in the first place, actually, contrary to popular belief in my country at least. And what happens usually, the police are the one who start this violence. So we have plans, for example, when we're in this street and we know where we have to escape, the escape routes, and we know that if we are hit by the police from this section, then we need to build a barricade in that while we move back, for example.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much for that. Cindy, so according to your campaign, which group of people has the highest number of HIV infection, and what could be some of the contributing factors that heighten the prevalence among the young people, or whichever group that you consider has the highest prevalence?
Okay. So according to the data that we have in Kenya, the population that is highly affected by HIV and have high infections has to be the adolescents and young people, specifically adolescent girls and young women between the age of 15 to 24. And for me, majorly, I would strongly attribute it to the lack of SRHR information, that is sexual reproductive health, and the lack of services for the same. So the denial of women of that group, any kind of services or any kind of information is what leads them to essentially get HIV, I think, at a higher rate, in my case.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Another question for Brand. What are some of the possible ways that can be used to make young people's voices in the development of policy and national programs designed accounted for?
Thank you. I think the most important is to actually ensure there is meaningful participation. And this means that young people are truly represented and that their voices are actually heard and considered. And for this, in the national level, for example, with governments, there needs to be formal mechanisms to ensure they are, one, present, and that they are also regarded as partners. Perhaps, for example, if the government is not used to working with young people, you could have trainings, especially for the adults, in how to work with young people, for example.
Thank you, Brian. Still another question for you, Brian, is what exactly do we mean when we say intersectional advocacy?
Okay. Intersectional, intersectional, I took from the term from Kimberly Crenshaw about how essentially different social and political identities and axes of oppression intertwine and operate together, resulting in different kinds of discrimination and privilege. In my experience in our work, when we do our advocacy, we need to
not only recognize this intersectionality, but also factor this into our work. For example, when we work together with different alliances, for example, for gender activists, we need to recognize the differences between women who live rural rural areas, those who are indigenous, who may be more concerned with environmental issues, and women who work in factories, who may be more concerned with labor. And so this is important to recognize that
in most other countries, social media is free to use, so it is very convenient for adolescents and young people. And the only investment is maybe the data bundles. That is all you need to do advocacy at the in a social media kind of way. It also has great reach over a very short period of time, so you can reach a lot of people at the same time in just like 8 hours, like we did. And then it is very popular among young people. I think at least every young person right now in any continent has at least one social media platform that they go into at least once a day. So it is very popular, and young people can easily get there to get the and support you in your advocacy messaging. And then it has instant results. Like you can see them if people are, let me use an example of a Twitter chat. If people are trying to do a Twitter chat, if somebody reacts, if somebody comments, if somebody does anything, it is seen instantly, as opposed to when you do sort of like an offline one where you have to talk to policymakers and you're not sure if they will take up the matter on later. So it's different because social media, you will see it as it happens, as opposed to the other kind of ways. Yeah.
Thank you, Cynthia. So maybe just to talk on that question, are there any existing challenges? For example, what about that population of young people who are living in areas that are considered hard to reach? How do you ensure that social media advocacy also gets to reach them so that we also consider the aspect of inclusion?
Yeah, so for us, when we are doing social media advocacy, we ensure that all every member, like we get participants as you're mobilizing people, we get participants from all the counties. So they may not essentially be the ones to join into a Twitter chat or something, but in our advocacy plan, we ask their representatives to join in and to give us their sort of messaging that they want for the same thing, so that as we advocate for the same thing, but in different ways, so that we're able to reach offline the voices that are also offline, and as well as the ones that are actively online. Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy. Monica from Namibia says, in Namibia, we have been advocating for legalizing abortion in public demonstrations, online signatures, and all of that in places. So they've not been able to achieve this successfully. Their politicians refuse to even debate this in parliament. What do you think can be done, Brian, to be able to maybe boost this social media advocacy and just ensure that politicians also get to sign these critical documents on legalizing?
it's your feelings in Indonesia with similar issues. One that I've seen may work, for example, is if the parliament as you say, is not discussing it. They're even outright refusing it. Perhaps you them if you're in social media. For example, you include them in the conversation, or you specifically tweet to your representatives. I'm not sure about in your country, but in my country, for the parliament, uh, they represent specific districts, specific provinces, and so you could, for example, tweet them, or you could even conduct social media campaign writing letters to them to engage them, to have them hear what you have to say about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question for Brian in the chat box is, would this online campaign be sufficient to revise the constitution? What would the government require to start processing, repealing and revising outdated laws?
Okay, thank you. Uh, Sufficient. I'm not sure. It is definitely important and it helps, but I think one of the most important, aside from the social media campaign, in my opinion, at the end of the day, raises the awareness, engages both horizontally with other parts of the community, and also uh, gives a voice to be heard, so that the policymakers will also consider. However, at the end of the day, it's important to have lobbies, to dialogue directly with those who are making this policy. And admittedly, during this pandemic, it is actually quite difficult, as face-to-face meetings are very hard to conduct. Uh, what would be required at the end of the day is political will. If, for example, the majority of the country is not interested or even is invested in keeping those laws, for example, the law banning abortion, and the country, for example, happens to be a patriarchal, well, more likely than not, the policymakers will not have much of an incentive to change or repeal said laws. And so, as much as I think vertical advocacy, talk the a government is also important, I think it's also important, for example, back again to social media, to or other forms of campaign that shifts the public opinion and gives them a reason to want to appeal, to repeal, sorry, this outdated laws. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. So, a question for you, Cindy. What are some of the what makes for an effective adolescent health and well-being policy? When you're talking about policies that make effective, that are stand out and make it effective for adolescents and all in their diversity, what are some of these policies that we refer to?
Please come again.
Thank you, Cindy. When we talk about adolescent well-being, what makes for an effective adolescent health and well-being policy? What kind of policies will make it effective for our adolescents to be able to have sufficient and accessible and affordable health services?
So, first of all, I think a bill that has bits and bits of everything. A bill that has components of SRHR, a bill that has components of mental health, one bill that can encompass everything according to a young person's perspective of health. So when we go, literally a bill that gives us as young people an ability to access all services, and we don't have to think about very many things, just the things that are inside that we have mentioned and have said this is important for us as young people. So I think a policy that sort of encompasses everything together and makes it one bill that you can use to access health. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Crispin has a question from the chat box. He says, how do you mobilize young people to influence positive vibes?
For me?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So in our own way, we have to find young people and first inform them of the advocacy issue. After we inform them, we get to show them how we want things changed and the ways we are going to use them. We are going to use to ensure that that change happens. So with that, they will come in with the right mind, well informed of what exactly they are here to do, what exactly they need to advocate for, as opposed to just leaving the floor open for anyone to give in their ideas and stuff. You have to inform them very well and then put in their input in whichever way. Try to encompass everything together so that when you go, you're going as one voice for young people in that advocacy plan that you have. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy. So, Brian, how can you just ensure that we have strengthened advocacy among young people? What do we need to do different, and what do we need to maintain? What do we need to change?
I'm sorry. Would you mind repeating that?
Yes, sure. What can we do different, or what can we do as young people to ensure that we have strengthened advocacy?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I think one of the most important would be to build the environment that is actually youth friendly, that understands that young people will have different processes and needs. And so the advocacy work needs to keep that in mind and needs to factor that in. For example, this is often that I see is that this kind of work takes place during school hours, which means that especially young people who are in school can participate. Or, for example, it is in hard to reach places and thus it is inaccessible. And so I believe the most important is to ensure the environment in the end is the one that can enable them to participate.
Thank
Thank
you very much, Brian. Yes, Irene, do you have anything to add on?
Yes, there is a question that is coming from Kristen again. How do you give young people the roles? How do you just allocate these roles to the young people? And also a question to both of you. Do young people benefit from voluntary work? And if yes, how? And if no, why? Maybe we can start with you, Cindy, and then Brian.
Okay. So in terms of allocating roles, we first look for young people who are very great at different aspects. So when you're doing an advocacy, there are different roles that are supposed to be played, but who is good at what? And then from that we select sort of team leads. And these team leads then select other young people to support them in their roles. So that makes it easier so that we build up sort of like a pyramid chain of how we want work done and how everyone is going to achieve their roles. So, and that is how, for my case, we have within Y Plus Kenya, we have been able to assign roles when doing advocacy. And in my honest opinion, young people do benefit from volunteering. I don't know who has ever worked in in a civil society space and hasn't volunteered for some time, even if for 3 months or 2 months or something like that. I think all young people in the civil society space started at a point of volunteering, but then you have to volunteer with people that want to help you grow to a certain extent. So they have to be willing to build you up, build your skills up. And if possible, they should also be able to provide sort of like a simple compensation. It doesn't have to be like the whole way, like a salary, but it can be a very simple way of just even giving you transport back home. That is still a way of just motivating you to keep doing what you're doing, because at the end of the day, I don't think skills will completely pay your bills. So yeah, there has also to be some level of compensation, but not entirely to the extent of salaries. Yeah, but I totally think young people do benefit from being volunteers. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Brian, you have what, like 30 seconds to.
Yes. Uh, yes. Oh, hold on a sec. I was so caught up in Cindy's answer, I forgot the first question. It was about young
How do
people.
you allocate
You mind?
Keep the roles, and then do young people benefit from voluntary work? And if no, why? And if yes, how?
Yes. To role, I do agree with Cindy. Mostly based on what they like to do, for example, or what they want to do. Because at the end of the day, they are young people. We are young people, so there might be experiences that they have never had, and so I've seen that a lot in where they might be shy in trying out new things because they're not good at it or they don't know yet. And so I think it's important in what I mentioned just now, the enabling environment, to also let them have the chance to grow, to learn new things. And regarding the second question about the benefit, I also agree with Cindy, especially that it benefits, especially because these are issues that they are interested in that they have a stake in, so of course it will affect them, the issue itself. And aside from that, it also gives them a chance to participate.
Presentation. We really are grateful, and you're looking forward to join in the next session. Thank you all for watching.
So as we move to the second session of our session today, I'm so excited to introduce to you young, powerful leaders who will be sharing their leadership journey and their leadership experiences. I will just give a brief introduction of all of them. Eli is a young trans man living with HIV. He works with an organization and different organizations, and one of those organizations is Chiva. Eli is Chiva's youth advocacy worker and has previously attended BHIVAA and also other conferences representing the voices of young people living with HIV. Working alongside Chiva's youth committee, he also tweets on their Twitter handle at Freedom2SPK.
Hi, so my name is Abby Carter and I am the Chiva Participation Officer.
And I'm Eli. I am a youth advocacy worker for Chiva and the CYC,
So we're
Chiva Youth Committee.
going to have a conversation to tell you a little bit about Eli's role and how that works with our organisation and the young people growing up with HIV in the UK specifically. So Eli's role as youth advocacy worker very much came about organically. You know, it was something, a lot of the activities that are required by that role were things that Eli was already doing. And so we approached him to take on this role. And one of the key elements of the role is to represent young people living with HIV and the Chiva Youth Committee at public events, as the young people in the youth committee do not live openly with HIV. So Eli's role is to go to public events like conferences or specially convened meetings or events to represent young people, and also to work and network with adult activists and people working in the adult HIV sector. So Eli, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of those events and conferences?
So a few of the things I've done is attend conferences like Beaver and NIVNA, and just do talks and talk to doctors about the issues that affect young people living with HIV in the UK. Other things I've done at these talks is present some of the work that we've done with Chiva projects. So art is key, and I read some poems that were made there. And then also I attend a variety of different meetings and network, trying to see what we can do to really get more stuff out there for young people living with HIV, and to network with medical professionals to ensure that our voices are definitely being heard and always have a seat at the table, even though a lot of us living with HIV and are young, our voices often aren't heard, because we're not all out, we're not all able to speak openly about HIV. So my job really is just have a seat at the table when
yeah, absolutely. And also in the UK context, young people growing up with HIV are in a minority compared to the adults living with HIV or the adult population. However, there are larger numbers of young people now transitioning into adult clinics, aren't there? And so one of the really valuable things that you've been able to do over the last couple of years is show the experience of somebody growing up with HIV to the adult doctors, the adult healthcare teams, as they perhaps don't realize that there is a real difference between growing up with HIV and acquiring HIV as an adult.
Yeah, it's very important to make sure, like especially transitioning clinics, like my transition itself wasn't the smoothest, and to ensure that if I can explain why mine wasn't the smoothest transition, then that means that other young people's transitions from pediatrics to adult clinics can go a lot easier, to just ensure that everyone has the ability to really sort of advocate for their own like ability to transition into adult care, and that that our voices are heard as we transition, and that we do have different needs to those who have acquired HIV later on in life as adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And often when you go to these events, like you've been to stuff in the UK Parliament, haven't you? You've done, like you say, British HIV Association and the Nurses HIV Association events and conferences, but often you're the only person who's speaking on behalf of young people, aren't you? So it's really important part of what Chiva does as an organization, is that we're really happy and proud to have someone in your role taking those voices to those arenas where they need to be heard. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Twitter, what you do on the @Freedom to Speak Twitter?
So the CYC, which is the Chiva Youth Committee, they have this little Twitter. The is @Freedom to Speak, the number 2, and then SPK. And basically, it used to be tweets from members of the CYC themselves, but I now tweet from it as the perspective of young people growing up and living with HIV. And it's a really good Twitter. It's a really good way that we can get our voices heard to a larger audience, as we have quite a large-ish following. But yeah, we definitely get heard. It's a really good way for us to get a lot more information, and for medical professionals that use Twitter a lot to really see our perspective on things, and so we can stay in the loop of what's happening within the HIV sector in the UK, but also globally.
Yeah, brilliant. And that also the Twitter has allowed us also to talk across other areas, like sort of GPs, that's general practitioners in the UK, and adolescent health services or mental health services. So it's really broad, because there are a lot of medical people that use Twitter, don't they, to communicate with each other and talk about issues. So it's really great that we've been able to bring the experiences of young people growing up with HIV into those other policy areas. So yeah, we're really proud of that particular element of Eli's role. And
get some good opportunities after the Twitter as well in the past.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else you would like to say about your role before we sort of finish up?
I don't think so. I think we might have covered most things.
Yeah, well, anyone else, if anyone wants to hear more, they can come and hear your talk on the panel. And also my poster 56 on the same day is also about the Chiva Youth Committee and all that we've done over the last few years.
It's
Thanks
really
for
good.
listening.
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Distinguished delegates, I'm excited to introduce to you Jennifer Kayombo, our second panelist. Jennifer Kayombo is a youth leader. She is also a girl and women's activist, as well as an author. She is a strong advocate on sexual, reproductive, and gender issues, volunteering with African Tanzania as a program officer.
My name is Jennifer Kayombo. I'm from Tanzania. I'm a sexual reproductive health and rights activist. I'm just done with my university. I took a Bachelor of Project Planning Management and Community Development because I'm so passionate about my community. Through my journey, I have been taking different leadership roles in both local, national, and international organizations, whereby I was the youngest youth adversarial panel member of UNFPA. I just took that position when I was only in my Form 6 advanced level. And through that position, I was able to learn how UNFPA work and implement their activities, but also I was being able to had an opportunity to advise and contribute on how effective I think UNFPA programs, projects, activity should be established and implemented to serve the best interest of young people, especially when it comes to sexual reproductive health and rights issues. But also through that opportunity as a young person, I was being able to be promoted in terms of my expertise and my knowledge. But also, apart from that, UNFPA has been able to support me to attend different kind of national and international conferences, which has increased my network, professional network and social network. But also, I have been also working with a national organization, or I can say a local organization here in my country. It's called Femina. I have been volunteering with them in their Girl Power Team project, whereby I have been able to provide menstruation hygiene management education, or to train and capacitate those 100 young girls so that they could create and advocate for enabling environment in their school setting concerning menstruation in terms of proper toilet, availability of water, and safe and clean water, but also availability of emergency sanitary pads. But also I have been able to train more than 50 students, more than 50 teachers, who together with the students they have been working or collaborating to ensure that they advocate and promote a better environment for young girls, so that they could be, or they could keep young girls in school even when they are in their menstrual periods. But also as a young person, through taking these different leadership roles, I had an opportunity to attend different stakeholders meeting and conference, whereby I have been able to sit with government officials, with different kind of leaders who have been raising my voice on behalf of other adolescent girls, but also young women and youth in general, on our agendas in order to shape the policies, the laws, the program, and the projects which at some point they are being established and implemented to serve the needs of young people, or to solve the problem that young people are being facing. So to me, this leadership role that I have been taking and that I'll be continue taking, it's not about the title that I'm having, but it's more than an opportunity and platform that I have been getting, and that I'll be continue getting, in order to raise my voice on behalf of other young people who have not been yet get such an opportunity like mine. So I really encourage this organization, institution, to continue providing this platform for young people, because they don't only increase our knowledge and expertise, but also these are the only platform that young people we can use to raise our voices, so that whatever that is being doing for young people could be doing for us, by us, and serve our best interest. I'm looking forward to learn a lot of things today from different people in different countries. So I just feel blessed and lucky.
Our third panelist is Dacosta Apolster. She is currently engaging in providing psychosocial support to adolescents and young people living with HIV through an intervention aiming to build resilience. Developed a psychological needs assessment tool to assess the client's personal, family, social, medical, and psychological, as well as psychiatric, sexual education, vocational, and environmental history, thereby identifying the needs to be taken into consideration while administering counseling sessions. Cases on non-adherence to treatment, impulsivity, behavioral problems, career confusion, BPAD, depression, relationship issues, disclosure of status grief, self-harm, anxiety, stress, risky sexual behaviors, ADHD, nutrition counseling, substance abuse are just a few cases dealt with. She has incorporated techniques of various therapies like cognitive behavior therapy, interpersonal therapy, behavior therapy, motivational enhancement therapy, as well as progressive muscle relaxation, anger management, rational emotive behavior therapy, and within all these counseling sessions, as well as conducting group counseling sessions for the aftermath beneficiaries of Human Touch Foundation. During the course, referrals to a psychiatrist and other medical professionals have been made when essential.
A kind gesture can reach a wound that only compassion can heal. Quote unquote, Steve Maraboli. As a kid, I was taught to look out for those in need, to help people who suffer among the community. It is a value that I closely cherish. And so it followed. Observing people around me, their behavior, was my favorite pastime. Like any other human, I began to be very curious. And this curiosity in me developed a keen interest to study human behavior and thought processes. Namaste, I'm Apista Meren da Costa, fondly known as Apple, from Goa, a state in the western India with coastline stretching along the Arabian Sea. It is also known for its pristine beaches. A psychologist by profession with a postgraduate degree in clinical psychology, I am currently heading the psychosocial support programs at Human Touch Foundation, a youth-focused and youth-serving organization which works within the areas of sexual and reproductive health, HIV, tuberculosis, and substance abuse. We work strategically and collaboratively to strengthen the movement, to ensure the health, well-being, and human rights to all young people. With core values of engagement with our beneficiaries, we believe in creating delightful experiences for our adolescents. We strongly believe that the psychosocial milieu in which these adolescents live with HIV, it deserves consideration. Adolescents and young people who live with HIV face a range of mental health issues that, when it is not dealt with appropriately, can lead to more serious problems. A large number of adolescents have experienced bereavement, inconsistent care, loss of educational opportunities, and having to care for their siblings and ill relatives and family members while dealing with their own illness. As a mental health professional and a young leader, I advocate mental health services for young people by helping them to recognize distress within themselves and their peers and to seek professional help. Currently, I am on a journey with over 200 adolescents living with HIV, assisting them to set life goals and acquire viral suppression so that they can be productive, stay healthy, and stay alive. Thank you.
Our last and final panelist for this particular session is Tabeleng. She is a woman who is passionate about changing people's lives for the better. She completed her degree in development studies, and she also did French in 2017 at the National University of Lesotho, specializing in special project management and gender mainstreaming courses. She volunteered at the university radio station, working as the head news and mentor youth in youth programs. She joined Lesotho Network of AIDS Services Organizations in 2017, leading youth-related HIV prevention programs as the event coordinator for mobilizing of HIV and TB services uptake in the communities of Lesotho. She works as her Voice Fund, a Voice Adolescent Girls and Young Women Ambassador for Lesotho, advocating for meaningful engagement of adolescent girls and young women in decision-making platforms that shape the HIV response. She formed the Adolescent Girls and Young Women Empowerment Groups in 10 districts of Lesotho, where she trains district ambassadors on running and overseeing sustainability of adolescent girls and young women groups. She was part of reviewing the National HIV and TB Strategic Plan, and in the process, she developed the National Operational Plan. Tabele works with Athena Network as the What Girls Want, What Women Want focal points person in Lesotho. She advocates for equality, women's rights in the HIV response in all their diversity, and their meaningful engagement in platforms where their ideas could influence national girl-centered policy. She reached about 700 adolescent girls and young women with sexual and reproductive health and rights messages and issued sanitary towels as contribution to keeping them in school. Welcome.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Ntabelin Sekalde from Lesotho. I'm the Athena focal point here. Hashtag what girls want, what women want. And I'm very excited to be here today to be sharing with you what Athena Network has been doing in supporting young women and girls leadership in peer-to-peer advocacy through engaging them in sexual reproductive health and rights advocacy in HIV response. But first of all, I would like to start with the brief background of Athena. Athena works to address the core factors that increase girls' risk and vulnerability to HIV and to highlight the elements that have been overlooked. Athena's mission is to advance the recognition, protection, and fulfillment of women's and girls' human rights within the HIV response. It has supported young women to conduct peer-to-peer advocacy packaged with evidence-based strategies that address structural barriers that fuel adolescent girls and young women risk and vulnerability to HIV, sexual violence, and limited access to sexual reproductive health and rights information and services. This happened after some key findings that was done by Athena, whereby peer-to-peer advocacy at the community level to regional level makes information on SRHR easily accessible and available in a language that adolescent girls and young women are familiar with and can easily comprehend. The other finding was that peer-to-peer advocacy has continued to provide a safe space for adolescent girls and young women to open up about their challenges, their concerns, and can openly ask questions about their bodies and rights since they find the space non-judgmental. And this has continued to create a unique, safe environment for them to get correct and accurate information on issues that they want to know, especially SRHR. Athena did a survey before the launch of the hashtag What Girls Want project and found out that comprehensive knowledge among adolescent girls and young women is at 54% and 64% among the boys. While the focus has been on the general women population, the adolescent girls and young women have constantly been marginalized as the targets and beneficiaries of these initiatives. Athena realized that effective HIV prevention programs for them critically depend on developing and expanding leadership, giving platform for their voices, realizing their knowledge and implementing solutions led by them. And that's when there was introduction of the use of peer-to-peer engagement, which has continued to show promise in delivering HIV-related health information and services to adolescent girls and young women. The main objectives of Athena are to amplify the leadership of young women and girls around 10 countries in the Southern and Eastern Africa, where Athena has its intervention to champion and demonstrate the impact of peer-to-peer engagement, enriching adolescent girls and young women with information on SRHR, as well as developing the most effective evidence-based programs to improve the lives and the supportive environment. There are some specific objectives of Athena. This include refining HUW peer mentoring models through the hashtag What Girls Want focal points for future scaling up, sustainability, and ensuring a skill-based advocacy. And the other one is facilitating engagement and creation of safe spaces to dialogue with key decision makers in HIV, SRHR, and gender equality at local, national, and global levels. The methodology that Athena uses is that the hashtag What Girls Want campaign, it involved the focal points in the 10 countries, which include Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, Malawi, Lesotho, Botswana, Tanzania, and South Africa, whereby the hashtag What Girls Want focal points were selected after nomination from community partners based on interest, knowledge, expertise and mentorship, advocacy, experience, and commitment in partnering with other young women. Among them is a wide representation of young women in their diversities, including young women living with disabilities and young women living with HIV. They were nominated by community partners who were invited to identify young women actively involved in leadership programs with their AGYWs in their community levels. They have been actively leading advocacy at the community level in their countries, and they continue mapping the needs and concerns of AGYWs as they lead the hashtag What Girls Want advocacy campaign, focusing on HIV prevention, and are responsible for mobilizing AGYW in their country to create a movement of well-connected AGYW in their diversity at country level. They have continued to provide positive modeling and encouraging diverse views and experiences in a safe space. In this safe spaces, information on SRHR and HIV prevention and treatment is shared. AGYW openly share their HIV statuses, receive treatment, adherence counseling, while getting advice on other issues pertaining their specific needs. Here also, young women leading projects at the community level enable peers and other community members, including community gatekeepers, to appreciate, support, and advocate for the rights of the adolescent girls and young women, as well as mobilizing a greater awareness of and advocacy around adolescent girls and young women rights. The results of this beautiful work is that the evaluation of the project found that adolescent girls who partner with the hashtag What Girls Want country focal persons from the 10 countries of the Eastern and Southern Africa are better able to make informed choices, support and educate their peers to take positive steps, seek available SRHR options, understand HIV prevention and treatment options, more actively participate in their own care, feel more confident about telling others about their HIV status, and talking and sharing information with others freely. The conclusion is that through this, young women advocacy has been realized to be the peer-to-peer model, which has continued to enable an environment with increased level of self-esteem, confidence, as well as creating a safe space for survivors of gender-based violence to open up and seek help. It serves as an effective advocacy tool for girl-centered agendas relevant at the local, national, regional, and global levels. Athena embraces partnering with young women leaders because it considers inclusion of them as an essential act in advocacy process, which allows supporting the construction of young women leadership and complying with the principle of plurality, including inclusion in decision-making and leading processes as a way of helping and strengthening the knowledge, experience, and social awareness of a young woman as a participatory actor. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say. I'm very excited. I hope you all can understand the role Athena has been playing in our lives, especially for us as the focal points in our different countries. Being able to lead the beautiful work of fighting for the rights and the inclusion of our sisters in the grassroots. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the powerful presentation, Tabeleng. And I would just say that organizations have so much to learn in regards to meaningfully engaging the young people and also including them in their structures, because this begins and forms the beginning of a visualized big picture of young people with so much power and so vibrant, bringing so much potential, morale, innovation, sustainability in exchange of all programs and in regards to creating powerful current and also future leadership just within the organizations is really, really critical. So I'm also excited to welcome my co-chair to just tell us why, Jeremiah, why do you think it's really critical to be able to engage the young people? And what do you think, how much power does the young people bring in regards to just ensuring that the spirit of plurality is considered and how much power and potential they bring on board each time they're engaged in spaces?
Thank you very much, Irene. That's a very important question. I, for one, being a young person, believe that young people should inspire change because they are at the center of everything that is happening nowadays. Look at the HIV response, young people at the center of it. Look at gender-based violence, name it, climate change. Young people are at the center of everything that we're doing, and I believe they should be considered not only as beneficiaries but as key players in finding possible solutions to making these things work. So I am very happy to be co-chairing this session with you, and I believe that before we end this session, young people around the world will be able to be equipped with the right information. You might also bear in mind that for you to advocate or to inspire that change, one of the critical components that you're supposed to have is the right information and knowledge, and that is what we are acquiring right now. Thank you.
I'm so excited that we have a very powerful panel. And just to start us the
Yeah.
discussion, I'm excited to welcome Nana Millers to just tell us about her work and just give us a brief history about herself. Welcome, Nana.
Thank you so much. How are you, everyone? How are you doing? I hope you're all well. So I go by names of Nana Miraz, and I'm the executive director and founder of Trans Youth Initiative Uganda, a rural-based organization that advocates for the rights of rural transgender youth women, transgender youth sex workers, and gender diverse youth in Western Uganda. Our major focus, our major work benefits rural trans people and gender diverse people. Why? Because for a long time they have been left behind. Our voices have not been heard. Let it be in decision-making policy systems or platforms. Our voices are not looked upon, they are not heard, our issues are not worked upon. So I was like, why not fill this gap? Why not create an organization that addresses issues of young trans people who are even rural or who are in rural areas? So that was the main goal. And what our work strives to do is enhance, our work strives to ensure that we meet the needs of the constituencies we are serving, ensure legal gender recognition, enhance socio-economic empowerment, safety and security, uh, also enhance access to quality gender affirming care and HIV services, and it also works around research and documentation of human rights violations. So I'm also a member of the Global Fund Youth Council, and there we talk directly to Peter Sanders, the executive director of the Global Fund, and we are ensuring that our voices are heard in the Global Fund processes, and Global Fund money works for the young people. So what else we've done as an organization, we have tried to engage in monthly and quarterly, I would say monthly and quarterly positive sharing sessions where we convene our members and they meet, talk about the issues they are facing, the challenges they are facing, and majorly this target people, or I would say transgender youth women living with HIV. Yeah, so we meet on a quarter and monthly basis, get their issues, what's affecting them, and what they need to do. Furthermore, we have also created HIV and TB literacy meetings, and these are ensuring that we raise awareness and talk about issues that affect generally the constituencies we are serving. Furthermore, we also work around adherence, like talk about adherence, and we have convened adherence information meetings, which have effectively and broadly communicated to our constituencies. So far, that's what we've done. For the leadership part, we have engaged our members in a leadership academy, and this happens every year. So the main focus of this was to ensure that we build the capacities and the skills and the knowledge of rural transgender people with this, so that they are able to influence and amplify their voices in decision-making policies and, decision-making platforms. Yeah, so far that's what we've done, and we have a lot we've done, but of time I will just stop from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana. I will just start you off with the first question. What does it mean to be a trans? And again, out of your experience with all the young people you've dealt with who are trans, with all the lives you've saved, with all the safe spaces you've provided, what does it also take to be a young trans who is also living with HIV? Are there any difficulties that they do face that you will maybe like to share, and how your organization has assisted them in handling all these issues?
Yeah, so first of all, if being trans is just an identity, so I guess all people here know who a trans person is. Okay, a trans person is a person who doesn't identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. For example, I'm a transgender woman. I was born male, but I don't identify with the gender I was born with or assigned at birth. So I identify as a woman. I'm a transgender woman. So that's the definition of who a transgender person is. So I'll respond to your question. Transgender people, really, being a transgender person is not easy because we have to face violence daily. Violence is like part of who we are. It's part of our identity. It's part of our daily life. Now, when it comes to you being a transgender person living with HIV, now you face double stigma, double discrimination. Why? People here think that you being a trans person, you're living, you're ready. They think you're ready, the contractor, or you're ready, the vector who is carrying HIV. So, and now when you have HIV, they'll be like, you see, we told you, those people are the ones spreading HIV. Those people are the ones with HIV. That's why we need to kill them. That's why we need to extend them from our society. So really, having to face all that on a daily basis, it affects us. But as an organization, what we've done is that we've tried to manage and do what we call psychosocial support meetings, and these help them, talk about these issues, share, know that they are not alone in this, know that we have their back, and they have people who can lean on and talk about issues. What we've also tried to do is train peers. So among them, there are people who are not like really open yet, or who are not willing to come out. So they be there facing this stigma, facing this discrimination because of their identity, because of living with HIV, but then they are not yet out. So what we've done with trained peers who support these people get access to maybe HIV services, maybe counseling without coming out. So, and the other thing, what we've done is we've tried to link others and like, okay, who are out already to facilities which are friendly. Because most of the facilities here are not friendly. They'll be like, you enter into a facility, first question, the healthy care provider will give you an attitude and they will be asking you, are you a boy, are you a girl, are you a woman, are you a... So those kind of questions are kind of, you know, stigmatizing. And by the time you go to a healthy facility, you're in need of, you know, you're in need of a service. But when you receive this attitude, you'll be like, no, I'm not going back. Already I'm seeing like this, and then now what if I tell them that, or what if I tell them that I'm HIV positive? How will they take me? Just because of me being this, they are already having an attitude. Now what if they know that I'm HIV positive? So really it's kind of hard in Uganda with even the current political and, you know, the laws in existence don't affirm our agenda. The laws don't want all them to accept that we exist. So really it's kind of hard. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana. Ellie, would you like to add anything in regards to the challenges that the trans face and what kind of hardships as well they face in UK, or even basing your argument from your own experience?
Yeah, I think what Nana said when she explained that it's very much the double stigma where we have, you know, we're trans and then also we're living with HIV, and it's very hard to find sort of anyone that's willing to support both of these things at once, which is a sort of quite a big problem in the UK. We've slowly got services that are doing this, but it has been very slow, and they tend to often be within the bigger cities. So if you're living more rurally, there isn't any services that are there for you. So you often have to do things yourself. And then also, I'm very lucky that I have been able to access services and I have got that support. But then there is just in society so much stigma and so much transphobia in the UK. The UK is turning out to be quite a very transphobic country, and we've got quite a transphobic climate at the moment. And then to also be living with HIV and then to be trans is sort of, you're living with one stigma and trying to pretend like everything's fine with that. And then you've got the other stigma, which is transphobia, and trying to pretend like everything's fine with that. And it's sort of, it weighs on your shoulders and it can be quite exhausting. But at the same time, I'm very proud to be a trans person. I'm very proud to be a trans man. So.
Thank you very much, Ellie. I will welcome my colleague, Jeremiah.
Thank you very much, Irene. And following the conversation closely, I have a question from the chat box. It says, heartbreaking, Nana, but that's why we need human angels like you. So someone just uploading the work that you're doing, Nana, and continue with the same spirit. Remember, you can ask your questions using the chat box. Just type your question and we'll be able to read it out loud. Back to you, Irene.
We have one question from Helena, and she says, great discussion. I would like to ask about the level of stigma towards young people living with HIV and how easy or hard it is to disclose. So maybe anyone could pick the conversation. We could start with you, Jennifer. Okay, Apple Star, if you can start us off kindly. How hard it is to disclose and the level of stigma and how just young people handle stigma that comes to disclosure.
Okay. So in India, we see that there is a lot of stigma that is still associated with HIV, and because of this, adolescents and young people living with HIV, they do not want to disclose their status because there's always the anxiety, like if I disclose my status, what is going to happen? How are people going to treat me? Am I going to be treated differentially? So yeah, there's a lot of stigma that is still associated with the illness, and that is why people do not want to disclose their status.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Aposta. So maybe this could go to the next question from the chat box. What are some of other ways that young people who are living with HIV and they're not willing to disclose, because we are trying to understand that not everyone is comfortable living openly with HIV. So how can they be engaged in advocacy even without disclosure?
So disclosure of status is obviously voluntary. So, but as advocacy leaders like myself, we can, engage the youth living with HIV through interaction. We can find out their needs, the problems that they're going through, and when representatives like myself, we are engaging with the stakeholders, we can put this forth towards the stakeholders, or when we are coming up with an intervention, so that we don't really have to involve the adolescents living with HIV directly into the system. Although that would be, really appreciated, but yeah.
Welcome, Jeremiah. And if you could maybe flag the next question on the chat box. Seems that Jeremiah is facing connection issues. I will just proceed to the next question, still directed to you, Apolisa. How hard or easy is it for young people to communicate and open up about anxiety, stress? Just looking at this from a psychological bit and a professional perspective, how hard or easy is it for us to be able to communicate about any anxiety, stress that we might be experiencing?
So, as we see, there is still a lot of lack of awareness when it comes to mental health, and adolescents do not know that like physical health, even mental health is very important, because they both are interrelated. So, if your physical health is not good, your mental health deteriorates. If your mental health is not good and you do not treat it rightly, your physical health, deteriorates. So it is, I think, important first to inculcate this aspect into adolescents and young people, that it is okay to have any mental health issue. It is okay to seek professional help, and it is necessary to provide this safe space among the community, and we should avoid trying to label an individual who is trying to access mental health services.
Welcome, Jeremiah.
Thank you. I have a question from the chat box here. It says, wonderful presentation. Please, how does this stigma and discrimination affect the trans adherence to AR, and what are the coping mechanisms you put in place to enable positive and healthy living among the trans community? Maybe Ellie and Nana, one of you can pick that one up.
Ellie, you can start, and then Nana can
I'll start. Okay, cool. I think, like with that double stigma, it can be very hard to want to take your medication. And I remember there was a point in my life where I went and saw my doctor, and she told me that I had to pick between being trans or living with HIV, as if, like, she was like, if your hormones interact with your medication, then I do not want you on hormones. I want you to keep taking your medication. But for me, I will always choose my hormones over my medication, because that's how hard it is to try and be perceived as who I am, and not, because dysphoria and being trans is really hard, and just passing is also really hard. And then having HIV sort of, it adds a lot of burden. And then with all the sort of different doctors being involved, not everyone understands how HIV medication works and how it interacts with like hormones. And it can be very complex, and ensuring that adherence is good also means that the hormones can work properly, which is something I was told before starting hormones. I was told that if I took my meds every single day, my HIV meds every single day, then my hormones will work more effectively, because of how the medication works throughout the body, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, I think it's good to maintain good adherence, but it can also be really hard just due to social stigma and due to motivation, mental health. So much pops up when you're trans. There are so many other intersectional issues that happen whilst just being trans and living with HIV, especially around mental health and motivation to want to take your meds and to want to engage in HIV services. And I think transphobia comes into that a lot, especially where HIV services can be very heavily gendered, so male or female. So there's a lot of intersectional things that come into place when it comes to adherence, accessing services, and ensuring good holistic well-being for trans people living with HIV, especially young trans people living with HIV. So yeah, if Nana wants to add anything.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. So I will also build on what Ellie was saying. You know, the stigma mostly for trans people, it comes from, you know, that double interaction of drugs. The people be like, doctors be like, you know, you're living with HIV, you're on ARVs, and then you're also taking daily hormones. So we think there might be interaction of drugs, and some might work, the other might not work. So most people, even like our members here, be like, I want to take hormones, but then I'm on ARVs. I don't know what to do. What should I do? What should I leave, or what should I consider to take part now? And it's really disturbing because most of them be like, I want to take both, but then my doctor advised me that I should take one because of the drug interaction. So what we've done is we've tried to deliver what healthy care providers, maybe it's a myth that, because there is no research to back it up, but then the research available was like, it could not affect somehow, so you can still take two. So we've tried to deliver awareness sessions to them. And what we've also tried to do is, you know, to combat stigma and discrimination among healthy facilities and healthy care providers. We've tried to establish a drop-in center, and this is acting like a safe space for them. So, you know, a trans person will freely walk into this drop-in center, say, I'm HIV positive, I need the ARVs, I need this, and they are really comfortable in this space. So I think drop-in centers like these safe spaces really work, because it has really worked for us. That we've got, you know, most people like, I'm among my own community. So they won't stigmatize me. Instead of you going to a heterosexual facility full of heterosexual people with like stigma and discrimination and attitudes because of who you are, before even they know what you want to get. So we've got that DIC in place. And as I've told you in the beginning, we also hold adherence meetings and emphasize on the point of, you know, members, you have to adhere to your drugs. Even if there is stigma, even if there is discrimination, let's not give in or let's not give up. We should adhere to our medicine. Yeah, so far that's what we've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana. Apple. So, Apple Star, how can young people access specialized care like clinical psychologists or psychiatrists in LMIC settings where HCW ratio to patient ratio is less than 1 to 1,000?
So yeah, when there is a vast difference between the healthcare workers and the patient ratio, it is difficult to access treatment. And there is manpower. We have psychologists, we have counselors available, but employment opportunities in this field is still very less. And even those who are practicing by themselves on their own, people around are not really aware. So when an individual is going through some mental health issue, They do not know who they have to, go to. So I think a lot of awareness and on probably through social media, we can kind of try to put it forth to individuals, like where they can go and seek mental health services. And also referral is one thing that needs to be done in a healthcare system. uh, when a healthcare worker comes across an individual who requires professional help in mental health, they need to refer them to a psychologist or a counselor that they are aware of. So there has to be like a referral system that is needed in the public health system, which we do not see yet.
Welcome, Jeremiah, with the next question on the chat box.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this question goes to Tabeleng and Jennifer. How do you continue amplifying young people's voices with the work you're doing? And what are you doing towards ensuring that young people come together to make change happen? Either of you can go first.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Maybe Tabeleng, you can lead us, and then Jennifer can come in after you.
Okay, thank you so much, Irene and Jeremiah. What I do is that I continue to be the assistance or the hand that these adolescent girls and young women need in their communities to transfer what they need to take to the authorities or anyone, because the only thing we need is platforms. And you might find that as I'm working with adolescent girls and young men in the grassroots, it is very hard for them to air what they have from where they stand as just anyone in the community to where their opinions could be taken into consideration. So what I do is I advocate on their behalf. I'm the voice of them who are voiceless, who are needy, because I've been put in a platform where I can lead. And yes, if you are a young person and you are in a position where you can lead, it means you're given opportunity to that others don't have. You can sit in a decision-making platforms with the people who need to hear what you need and what you need changed or need to be continued. So I'm the voice of those girls. And what I do to make sure that the advocacy or is still going on, I go in the grassroots where no one wants to go, where we find that the people who really need services are there and no one wants to approach them. Athena has been helping us to be there, to go in the communities and to meet with these girls, to have the peer-to-peer communication with them so that we hear exactly what they need and we take what they say to where it needs to be taken to. So that's what I've been really doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Here, I'm also so I have been using a lot of ways to amplify young people's voice. First of all, I make sure that all the leadership position that I have in both national and international organizations that I'm volunteering with, I present young people's agenda, especially adolescent girls and young women. But also, I have been using my talents and hobby in advocating for young people's rights. But also, I have been using a different kind of platforms to inform young people, because I personally believe information is power. And for young people to be engaged, for young people to know their right, for young people to come outside and advocate for their needs and their rights, they have to be well informed. So I normally use online platform. I have an initiative, it's called Live Talk, whereby I normally go 2 times in a month in Instagram, whereby I have different kind of topics. I welcome a certain guest, and whereby we talk about different issues concerning sexual reproductive health. But also I normally write articles, and so far since I finished school, I wrote like 3 articles whereby I also put them in online platform for people to read, for young people to know what's going on in our communities and how they can get involved or engage. But also I have wrote a book in which now I'm currently sitting with the Ministry of Health so that we could use the book to primary and secondary students. They want to adapt it and use it as an extra curriculum book to inform young people concerning sexual reproductive health issues and life skills. So personally, I have been using different kind of platform to amplify young people's voice, but to inform young people, because I believe young people are not uniform. We are diverse, and we have young people living with disability. We are having young people living in rural areas. So we need to try to accommodate all of them by using different kind of means or channel that they can reach out to so that they can be informed, but also they could know their rights and be part of us. Because in any movement, you cannot just do it alone. We need to we need to unite. We need to have one voice so that our agendas can be real considered and they could be seen important too.
Thank you, Jennifer. Maybe just to also ask, what do you think about engaging men and boys in the fight against gender-based violence in reduction to HIV new infection rates? Could it possibly reduce the infection rate, or could it make a difference at least? What are your thoughts about just ensuring that men and boys are also engaged in HIV intervention?
Yeah, I love the question, because I just wrote an article which says importance of involving young men and men in order to reach the gender equality agenda. Well, I think men plays a very great role in whatever that we are doing, because in reality, men have the power. A lot of men have taking some leadership position, with them make decisions concerning policies, programs, and projects, not only at the government level, but in national and international organizations. Therefore, it's so hard for them to advocate for girls and young women's agenda if they're not well informed or they don't see the real importance of advocating them for. So I think we need to include them, and we need to inform them, and we need to work with them so that they could see whatever that we are doing or whatever that we're advocating for. It's not to only benefit women, because if we help a young girl, if we help a young woman today concerning any issue, it's also going to benefit them in indirect or in indirect way, because these young girls and women are going to be they are their sisters, they are going to be their aunties, some of them they are their daughters, and so forth. So I think that we need to make the gender equality agenda, or whatever that we are going to fight for in terms of HIV, in terms of teenage pregnancies, and whatever sexual reproductive health issue that we are going to advocating for, should also include them, and they should feel the ownership and own this agenda as theirs, so that together we can create a safe space and enabling environment and improve the well-being and healthy of young women and adolescents.
Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome, Jeremiah, to read any possible questions on the chat box. Jeremiah?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Irene. I have a number of questions. The first one is, thank you for all your presentations. Involving young people as advocates is helpful in their role in advocacy. What are some sustainable ways young people could raise financial support to cater for their incentives, such as income generating activities that may have worked and can be adapted in different settings? Ntabele.
Oh, thank you so much for that beautiful question. I'm going to answer it from the experience we're having in Lesotho through working with the adolescent girls and young women community, safe spaces in the communities. From the different countries and different geographical locations, we've been asking them to say out what can best work for them in their communities, so that we help them develop such plans in anything that we have. So they came up with some ideas, others of having some after-school classes and maybe some low rents or maludi to cater for those who want to be part of that, to be doing some projects such as crop growing projects, broom making projects, artifacts, and all those things, and that they know they can do best, so that they can sell around in the communities and they can have money that is going to be sustain them in whatever they need. And whatever we've been doing with what they have created in the communities is we are now having an idea of allowing them to compete with what they know best. So whatever they're doing in their groups, in the communities, we're saying, let's compete with this, so that at the end, the winners are going to get some incentives that are going to help them sustain that project. So that's what we've been doing to make sure that they have the income generating projects to sustain their livelihoods in the communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
A question to all of us. Thank you, Jeremiah. Starting with you, Tabeleng, we've seen that this is a partnership you got into with Athena, and basically even looking at Nana talking, we also see some sort and aspects of partnership. So why do you think adult-youth collaboration and partnership is really critical in HIV response and all the health services and availing services and opportunities for young people? Tabeleng, maybe you can start us and just telling us why you think adult-youth collaboration and partnership is really, really important.
Thank you so much, Irene. First of all, adults are older people who have been here for a longer time than us. So they have much more experiences that we haven't as young people. So them being part of us, it means mentoring us so that they encourage us in this way of fighting for our rights as adolescent girls and young women or as young people. So they're going to open doors for us. They are going to, they're prominent already. Others are executive directors, others are very much prominent in the communities. So us collaborating with them will make our way so smooth because they already know these things. So we just have to follow in the mentorship and then do what needs to be done for ourselves.
Thank you very much, Tabeleng. Nana, just briefly tell us the importance of partnership, and then you can pick it up, Apple Star, after Nana.
So me, I think adult and youth collaboration is really a good thing. Why? I believe in collective voice. You know, when you have a collective voice and you form a collective action, change is, the change that happens is not like the change that happens when you are like one. So for adult people, they've been here, they have known what was there and what didn't work before. So they can take us through what they think can work if we maybe come up with a solution that was there by the time they were there, or by the time they were youth. They will tell us, maybe we tried this, but then this couldn't work. So maybe twist it up and do something better. So I think, yeah, it's really necessary because collective action really it brings or it yields results. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nana. Apple Star, your thoughts?
Yeah, so how my fellow speakers have stated, adults possess the wisdom, through working through so many years. But we young people have that enthusiastic spirit that is required for a change. And I think an adult youth partnership will provide a platform where it helps in filling the generation gap that we see in these two groups, that is the adult and the young people. And also these two groups, it will provide a platform that can bring about a change in the community by identifying and amalgamating, their own principles and practices into by integrating them.
Thank you very much, Apple Star. Jennifer?
Yeah, personally, I think having the intergeneration, adult and youth partnership First, it will create or it will establish and sustain the intergenerational equity. But also, as we all know, that the elders were also once young. Therefore, there are some problems that they were facing and as we are facing right now. But according to their context, maybe they are the way that they were applying to solve their problems that does not work right now. So I think it's much more of sharing how can we do better as young people to improve our lives, including our well-being. But also working with adults, it also put us in position of being their partners rather than their beneficiaries, because it has been so long that we have been working with adults and they have been seeing us as their beneficiary rather than their partners. So I think working with them, it will also change that thing, but also it will create a platform for both of us to plan, learn, but work together to improve the lives of young people.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panelists. Those were very beautiful comments. Unfortunately, we're coming to the conclusion of the discussion. And the last question I have for everyone on the panel is, what advice would you give to young people that want to inspire change in the world? I'm going to begin with Ellie.
So my advice is to just be your true, authentic self, be the best you can be, and to always advocate for the person that isn't in the room if you can, and if you're in a place to do so. And to just be yourself, because being yourself when you're living with HIV and when you have other things going on is just a huge act of resilience. It's a huge act of strength, and it is an act of activism to live every single day being yourself. So that's what I would say.
Apostle?
Yeah, so to inspire change, I think it is very important for young people to be aware of what is happening in the environment, what is happening in the surrounding. And when you know that something, what is happening is not right, and you know you can do something, you should always speak up and raise your voice. And also being non-judgmental, empathetic, and having to develop listening skills is something that is very important and will work wonders in another individual's life.
Tabelen?
Okay, to the young people, I would say, do not be afraid to take up some spaces. Allow yourself to be mentored and don't be afraid to lead. That's what I can say to young people.
Jennifer?
I would just like young people to know that the road of creating change, it's not easy, but as long as you're passionate, resilient, and you like to see change in your community, continue working hard to make the change and see the kind of a community that you want to see. But also remember that you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for others and for the coming generation that will come and benefit for the work that you're doing now.
Nana?
Yeah, so my last comment will be, or my advice to youth out there will be that, you know, when you're trying to bring out change or when you're trying to create change, it won't be an easy load. But then you have to remain resilient. Don't be shaken by things that come in the way when you're trying to create change. And I will leave them a quote that says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, come with a folding chair. So let's demand for our space. Let's fight for our space. This space will be given to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana, for that powerful. That we had the powerful help us discuss all the issues that concerns us and to bring out the robust and, this powerful leadership of young people. This is a proof to all the stakeholders in the room that young people can indeed lead change and can indeed lead a very positive change. So in conclusion, I'm excited to thank all the sponsors who made this workshop possible, Viv, Gillette, and also Mylan. And I also request you, everyone here, the distinguished delegates, to be able to check out the poster presentations and have a discussion with the poster presenters. And the poster presentation it started at the top of the hour. So please make sure you remain for the next 30 minutes and just interact with the poster presenters and ask questions and get to understand deep with regards to the posters they're presenting. And also kindly ensure that you also come and join us again next week, Tuesday, next week, Tuesday, November 17th, and attend the session 4 of the workshop, which is basically relationship with the pills and injections and friends or foods. We basically want to digest all this and get to understand the relationship between the pills and injectables and what works for all of us, what works for people who are living with HIV. So please make sure you do not miss out on session 4. Thank you very much for all the powerful questions. Thank you very much for the interactive presentation. And thank you all very much to all the delegates who attended this particular session. We say thank you and bye from us until Tuesday next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.